Hello everyone, this is Jake Sussman. I'm the Director of Customer Experience for KaiNexus, and welcome to our Winter Updates webinar. This is the third webinar in our Platform Updates series. Our last webinar was the Fall Updates webinar in January, and since then we've had 5 new releases. So we should call this our Winter or Spring Updates webinar. Since then there have been 65 improvements spread out over the last 5 releases. There are a bunch of really great new features making it easier than ever to manage improvements, projects, and now incidences. Today I'm joined by Greg Jacobson, our CEO and co-founder and also the head of product at KaiNexus. Greg's going to take us through the Fall Updates webinar today, and so with that I'll hand it over to Greg.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jake. So a little bit on agenda and logistics. The presentation is going to be about 25 or so minutes. If you develop any questions while we're going through this, please toss them in the question box and we will get to them at the end. You can use your GoToWebinar meeting panel, submit any question. Now remember, we're going to have everything's going to be recorded, and tomorrow you will get an email with a link to it, and if you did not see it or your colleagues didn't have a chance to see it, you'll be able to forward that to them. Awesome. Great. So like Jake said, super excited. There were 5 releases. Each one of these had lots of great, juicy, chocolate-covered features in them, all making your improvement work easier, all making you able to scale almost inevitably understaffed improvement teams and trying to get you guys to have a bigger impact at your organization. And you know, as we always say, we're here to try to spread continuous improvement. So we're going to go through premium, security, and SSO, mobile incidents, everything listed here in the bullets. I'm not going to read them all out. We have a lot to cover, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in on this. All right, so let's move into where we're going next. First thing is premium security. Now, premium security is not anything we can demo from the product side of things, and so I'm pulling up our web page that describes all premium security. A lot of this stuff is behind the scenes. If you are an organization that is focused on security, you know, the base KaiNexus platform is extremely secure, but some organizations want additional levels of security. For example, user provisioning and user authentication. They want to be able to do their own user management authentication with their servers. That's otherwise known as a single sign-on. In the last 5 releases, we are really excited to say that we now support SAML 2.0, and it's working great. We had to do a ton of back-end work to make that work. We also can do with premium security, we can mandate a certain email domain. So for instance, if you don't want your employees using a Gmail or a Yahoo email, but you want them to use your company email, you can do that with premium security. You can do IP whitelisting. So if you only want a person accessing KaiNexus from, you know, the company location, company proper, you can do things with IP whitelisting. Lots of password configuration, extra options can be done with premium security. We can even do audit logging. So we will track every single person that's seen every single improvement or project or incident in the system. And then we also can do content restricted emails. So the amount of data and the amount of information that goes in emails just gets really stripped down to almost nothing. And the email just says, hey, you need to log into KaiNexus. Something has happened that's important to you.
And just a quick aside on the single sign-on note, we've had a lot of early customers leverage this functionality, and it's a great way to keep track of any change in users within the organization. For example, any users that might have switched positions or left the organization. By integrating with your company's identity provider like an Active Directory, we can now regularly sync with the network and allow users to log in using their network credentials. So it's a really good feature and an easy way to get users in the system.
Okay, next we had a huge mobile update, and we are going to try something that we haven't done before, which is, there we go. We are looking at my iPhone here. You can see my beautiful daughter from about 3 years ago in the background, but more importantly for us In this webinar, we have a brand new mobile app out on the Android store as well as the iTunes store, and it brings a huge number of new features. So let's go ahead and go in there. And first of all, you can see that we're actually provisioning right now by Google. We use Google Business for our email and our provisioning at KaiNexus. So we just actually logged into the KaiNexus app without having to type our username and password. So it makes things a lot simpler from that perspective. With the mobile app update, we did a lot of updates to the form. So let's go ahead. We're actually in our KaiNexus instance. So this is we call it a KaiNexus when you have a great idea here at KaiNexus. So I'm going ahead and clicking on that. One thing you'll realize is now we support projects, incidences, and improvements. So you can submit all those from your mobile app experience as well. And if you'll notice down here, we actually are supporting all new attributes and a whole bunch of new field types. So for instance, if I go into category here, I can see a whole bunch of all the different categories that are that you would be able to do on the regular mobile app. And additionally, you can do, if you click other, for instance, one of the things that we did recently was allow you to have a free text note here. And so here we can say whatever free text you want. All this is going to go into my submission here. So this is, example, idea. Of course, I don't know how to spell. And hello. And let's just say that, right about now, you all of a sudden went into an elevator. So we'll put in airplane mode. So we just disconnected from the internet. And what you'll see here now is we still have the ability to use KaiNexus. So I'm using KaiNexus, and oh, of course, I'm being told that as we went into airplane mode, my iPhone disconnected from my computer. So we won't be able to show you that. But what I will be able to show you is I went ahead and you should be able to see me now updating, and went into offline mode. So we have a bunch of customers that are using KaiNexus in environments that don't have internet. And so what we have is an offline mode. I'm not going to be able to show it to you because it's offline, but it will allow you to complete your improvement, and whenever that's completed, you will have an option to say, save this in an offline mode, and the next time you connect to the internet, you'll be able to submit that. That's a really cool feature that we call offline mode. I think that's all the mobile updates. Jake, do you want to add anything about mobile?
I think you said it all. Offline's huge, and just all the new attribute functionality.
So you will need to update your mobile app here in the next couple weeks if you haven't done so already. Of course, if you're just doing automatic updates in the background, that'll probably just happen. All right, let's hop into the application and let's go into incidences. Incidences are a huge new add-on module. We have a lot of customers that want to put either their safety incidences or their defects in KaiNexus. We really believe that incidences should only happen one time, but instead of linking it to risk, we really think it should be linked to continuous improvement. And so we think it makes a lot of sense for you to be able to track them in your continuous improvement platform. And so you'll see here on the left nav bar, we have a new area called incidences. It's an add-on. If you're interested in learning more about it, you will need to, I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff about it right now, but you will need to go through your customer experience lead to get this turned on. It's a completely new workflow. We do recognize that, for example, a safety incident or some sort of legal incident should probably be a little bit more locked down, and so these things immediately go into private status or can be configured to go into private status. They can notify a completely different group of people. So if you need to bring in a legal team or need to do different kind of root cause analysis, you'll be able to do that. You can nest incidences under projects. And one important thing is that you can do something what we call an incident-only user. So we have a lot of organizations that are kind of the core continuous improvement team. Maybe they have 50 or 100 employees that are really heavily involved in that, but they want to open up the ability to report incidences to, let's say, 500 or 1,000 people. Those people don't need to see all of the continuous improvement work, and so I have actually logged in as an incident-only user over here, and and you can see that we've removed the left nav bar, and all I can see are my incidences. So this was a patient tripping hazard incidents that I put in. So it's a great way to kind of open up that feature to a whole bunch of different users. Now, we made a great web page on this incident reporting, and it goes through some of the biggest features here. And if you are a healthcare organization, you'll be happy to know that it is HIPAA compliant, so you could use it for your patient safety incidents as well. And of course, the mobile app was updated to support that as well. All right, along with incidences, we built a whole bunch of reporting that goes along with this. So if you have activated incident add-on, then you will get a new incident area which has about 5 reports in it to start things off for our reports on incidences. All right, that's incidences. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of our first installations of incidences?
Yeah, we've had a couple of customers take advantage of this module already, and what we're finding is that just improvements in general are kind of a natural progression from an incident. It's a good way to improve upon any negative that might have happened, and it's just a really good match between the two modules.
And one of the things that we realize with incidents is it requires a bunch of different field types. And so, for instance, you'll see here I've opened up a kind of our fictitious, for example, incident report. You'll see a new date and time field, and there's a couple other types of fields that really made sense only with incidences. And so we've added that. What's great and what I love about the fact that we built KaiNexus as a platform is that when we build it in such a way that when we add new features, oftentimes it opens up different areas of the application that we didn't know it was really going to have that effect. So that it's really helped kind of diving into the whole incident area, had effects on our premium security, and it's had effects on being able to make our templates even more robust. So we're very excited about that. All right, let's talk about filtering. Yeah, I love to say, well, I remember one of our developers at the last user conference said, I think our filters in general are the most powerful feature in KaiNexus. So I'm going to go over here to improvement list, and what we're talking about here is if you are a heavy CI person, then you really want to be able to slice and dice the data and see lists of improvements for all different things. And so I've gone into the filter. We've added some really cool filters here in the last quarter. One was between fields and within fields logic. So you can just do some, kind of much more powerful, creating different sets of lists of improvements or projects or incidences or tasks back, and with that logic. We've also, under attributes, for attributes, have added a none or an any option. It just makes it more refined. It makes it a more powerful tool. So if you guys are, let's say, I want a list of improvements that don't have any category. Now, I mean, that was almost impossible to do before. And now that becomes a really simple thing to do with the none, for example. Excuse me. All right, let's go to badges. We love badges. But badges, keep in mind, we have a completely, it's configurable accomplishment schema that you can create. People have really blown us away. We have many of our customers have actually gone to their marketing departments and had their marketing digital people create their own customized badge images, and so they go along with the entire kind of color palette of the organization. And of course, you can create all sorts of different badges for different scenarios. So we had released badges at our 2016 user conference, and with everything that we release, we always try to do, okay, what's the minimal viable feature that we can do that will create extra value for a customer, and then we end up engaging with, there'll always be about half dozen customers that just jump on board and want to get their feet wet right away, and in that we end up learning things. And so in this last quarter, we did kind of our 2.0 badges, and so we added a bunch of different a bunch of different kind of improvements and tweaks to them. So, for instance, you can now give badges by specifying, well, I only want to give a badge if the person completed an improvement. Then I want to give a badge. Or I only want to give a badge if the improvement resulted in a change. We also gave the ability to expire badges. So that allows you to do things like, I want the 2016 Improvement Award badge to only be given during 2016, and then you could have a 2017 badge. So there's also activate dates and deactivate dates. You can also get into things like a frequent flyer program type thing. So you get a badge if you put an improvement in the quarter or in the year, and if you don't do that, the badge expires. So just a lot of different ways you can configure badges and ways that you can kind of modify it to meet the goals of your customer. Of your company.
And I've really been pleased with how our customers are taking advantage of badges. And it really just goes to our thesis that recognition is the best type of motivation. With the annual badges, for example, it's just a page right out of Masaki Amai's book where he rewards people for having the biggest impact or just being who best personify the company's continuous improvement culture.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Masaki Amai's book, Jake, because if you haven't read Amai's book, Kaizen, it's often credited as the way the Western world was introduced to Kaizen in the mid '80s. I highly recommend it. I know the story you're talking about. There's a story in there that talks about one of the employees at a company set out teapots on the tables every day for lunch. That was the part of her job of at this company. But what she made the observation one day that people pretty much sit at the same tables every day, and some people drink tea and other people don't drink tea. So she actually changed her process and only put tea on the tables she knew that were drinking it. So they ended up saving a ton of tea. Did that save the company $1 million? Probably not. But it was such a great example of a low-cost, low-risk change that she made in her workplace that she could influence, that she actually got the Kaizen award that year at her company. So it's great.
Right. In that case, it was a pen.
It was a pen. They didn't have computer programs like KaiNexus.
Now we can do it with badges.
Exactly. We love badges, and we love that you guys are pushing us in that direction. Okay. I'm going to talk about a fundamental shift. In the next feature we did, it's a fundamental shift on how we do provisioning in the app. So when I say provisioning, I mean when a user logs in, what can they see and what can they do? And we have spent a ton of time and given a lot of options with provisioning to allow you guys to have, your CI teams can see more and do more. A frontline staff doesn't need to be overwhelmed with all the options, for instance. And so we're constantly getting pushed by you guys to increase that. One of the fundamental shifts that we made in one of the releases from this quarter was that we made it where now a user in KaiNexus doesn't have any permissions or any provisioning unless they're granted a role. It used to work that you kind of had this base granting and base permissions, if you will. But now you need to be given a certain one. So, for example, I've got this user here called Adam. We know and love Adam. And you'll see that his role is now a KaiNexus user, reports user, and a KaiNexus general user role. He is now essentially kind of your frontline user in KaiNexus. So you might be asking, well, why did you do this, Greg? What was the thought process behind it? It allows really two fundamental use cases. One, you can now create a guest type user. So we have a lot of organizations that are doing improvement work, but they're doing improvement work with people that aren't at their company, right? They're kind of going up in the supply chain or down in the supply chain, and it allows them to add those people from other companies into their KaiNexus instance without granting them the ability to see or do anything else in the system other than work on things that they've been made the team of. So you can now do a guest type user. It also allows, we have some really big organizations that have signed up with us in the last year or so. On the order of magnitude of 100,000 plus employees. And as we're rolling out to organizations of that size, we realize that in many cases, these companies are really kind of complementary sister companies under one umbrella, if you will. And they really want to kind of limit the amount of improvement work that a person or a user can see. So for instance, you can now do something like, instead of having a, let's say we had different divisions in KaiNexus, you could make a KaiNexus customer experience general user, and that person, let's say the customer experience team was 10,000 people big, could only see that area. So this is great for big divisions of different companies. This is great for, let's say you have a location that's doing some very specialized private work. We have a company that has some legal requirements that you have to, for example, be a U.S. citizen to see the improvement work that's going on, and so it allows them to kind of create barriers around locations of what you can and can't see to a much higher refinement. So this probably was released and he didn't even realize it was released, but it gives us a ton of power on the back end to be able to do things.
And just to add there, these roles, the guest user, the general user role and the reports user role are not given by default. So those are roles that have to be given by an admin or another person with the capabilities to give roles.
Right. And when we migrated everyone over into this new, we gave everyone those roles by default only for the migration, so those people would have essentially the exact same provisioning that they did prior to that release. Excellent. Okay, let's talk about charts. We released a brand new version of charts at our user conference, and it's a great time to talk about our user conference, Jake. If you aren't coming to our user conference, you need to take pause. When we look at our customers and we look at the people that are getting the most value out of KaiNexus, they have a presence at our user conference. We put our user conference on at cost. It is not a money generator for us at all. So the amount of content and the amount of value you're going to get at it from a pound per pound perspective when you compare it to any conference is going to really be off the charts. And the conference, while we do let prospective or non-KaiNexus customers come to it, it's really for our KaiNexus customers. 95+% of people that will be there will be KaiNexus customer, KaiNexus user. They're living and breathing. They're on the front lines of developing a culture of continuous improvement. The amount of ideas that are shared, examples, and we're adding more and more to this conference. Do you want to talk about the certification class you're going to be?
Yep. So we're doing some pre-conference workshops the day before the actual conference kicks off. One of which is a KaiNexus certification. So we're rolling out an official certification program for users of all levels, where we're going to cover new features. We're going to do some optimization of your current configuration with boards and reports. And it's just a great refresher for seasoned KaiNexus users, but it's a great introduction for any beginner users as well. And the conference is September 6th through 8th of this year, downtown Austin, Texas, after the heat of the summer has passed.
Let's talk about charts. We released at our last conference a huge update to charts. Really, it was kind of setting the foundation for us to be able to add a ton of new features. And so let's go through some of those. For one, you can now make control charts in KaiNexus with a really high degree of configuration. So here is a control chart that we made. You'll notice that you can put the upper limit and lower limit on the control charts and put the average here. And you can actually do things like, let's go ahead and show the configuration of being able to set up that control chart. So here you have this whole control limits area. You can color your lines whatever color you want. And even more importantly, you can have KaiNexus notify you when a data point goes outside of the control limits. We think that's huge, and it would notify the people that were on the team of the chart. Look forward, or you should be looking for more improvements to control charts in future releases. We're gonna keep just putting a lot of effort on making charts better and more refined, and really just kind of provide more value for and more reasons to put your data in KaiNexus. All right, let's talk about cards. We know that people are living in their board area. So the more improvements we can make to cards, the better. So I am going to find we made this board here to show all of the improvements to cards in one fell swoop. You now have the ability to show Kanban view right in a card. And so you see a beautiful Kanban view. You now have the ability to show financial impact right on a card here. And so now you can do that. We've added a project curve card. We've added incident list cards. And of course, you have the ability now to do some really neat stuff with figuring out which default data series you want to show on a card, and even showing the legend here. So let's say I don't like the legend on the left, I want to put that on the bottom. I can put that there, and let's say I just want to, I don't want to show the one sigma above or below, then I can only show those, and you can see the legend has moved. So lots of ability to do a lot of new things with cards. That's incident cards, compound view card, project curve, and editing the card view with regard to charts. This is a great board for me to show you what I think is one of the most powerful new things we did to cards. So here we have a card here. It's the 2017 Strategic Planning Project card. We've got it in tree view, and we're showing two different columns. Okay? Now, notice when I expand this, we have a different constellation of columns being shown. And so now you have the ability on a card to control which columns are shown by default, and then when you expand it, which columns. You do that by clicking on this gear icon right here, clicking view, clicking tree. You get this configuration view for card and configuration view for expand area. You can move these around. Let's say you want the facilitators to just be above the state. I don't know why you'd want that, but you could do that. And you can also control the width of a card. So I'm sorry, a column. So for example, the state, we're controlling the exact width of it. Just a lot of configuration to optimize workflow. People are using boards to do meetings. People are using boards to do their own work, and refining the exact experience is going to be super important to that. Let's hop over to Location Activity Board. Made some really cool changes. If you haven't looked at this board recently, you should. We've added a status bar now, so you can quickly see visually what the statuses are of a specific location, and even the change percentage. If you want to see all the overdues, you can just dive into that. Super powerful. Major improvements to tasks. All right, I'm going to show you. Let's pull up this parts presentation. We love the parts presentation improvement. You can now, when you clone so first of all, we got a ton of tasks here. So when you clone a improvement or a project, or copy it, you can now include copies of tasks. So this creates an opportunity for you guys to make project templates. Let's say you always do your 5S's a certain way and you want 12 tasks to be in there. Those become super simple. So let's go ahead and do that. So we now have created a copy of parts presentations, and in the task area, all those tasks are there.
And this supports any educational initiatives being run out of KaiNexus, any classrooms or Greenbelt classes. Gives you the ability to create a good bit of standardization in these and easily repeat any type of classes that you're doing.
So let's say this was class and this was assignments. We can now do bulk edit. Let's say you wanted to go ahead and bulk edit these three improvements. I'm sorry, these three tasks. You could change the due date. You can change the assignee. So let's say, okay, we're going to go ahead and assign these to Blake, and we are off to the races. And you'll see that we have now just assigned those three in bulk. So just really optimizing workflow. That's bulk changes. We've also added a planned and deferred status. You can see that here. You can put these in planned or deferred, so they mirror a little bit closer to improvements. All right, last improvement that we are putting that we're going to talk about, and is X matrix. So we have really are being pushed by all of our customers to support strategy deployment more and more and more. Hence the tree view, hence a lot of the improvements we've been making to cards, but this is a big one. We now have a X matrix view card, and so here you are. This is completely customizable by you guys. There's a huge amount of configuration options, but now when you create your X matrix and you're putting your projects or your charts in here or your people, you can actually click right into those. So you're actually bringing up this project. So your X matrix is essentially becoming a live, living, working document, working view. And we literally just released that in our last view. We're configuring some of our first X matrices with our customers. This is one of those things that we need to turn on. It's not an add-on. It becomes part of KaiNexus core, but it will need to be turned on, because if you don't know what an X matrix is and you're not using it, we just didn't want to clutter up your user experience. And so reach out to your customer experience lead. We can get X matrices turned on for you, and then you'll need to create a role of who can manage X matrices, and you'll be off to the races. I think you're going to love it if you're using X matrices. Okay, well, we ran through this. Now, there was a number of questions. We're going to reach out to those individuals to answer those questions because we have run out of time. I do want to remind you that we have a great webinars page. I'm sorry, a great webinar series, and so our next webinar is going to be given by Mark and I, Taking Improvement Boards Digital, How Leading Companies Are Improving Visual Management. It's going to be great. I've been preparing for that, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Really, our customers are just really opening our eyes to how the feature in KaiNexus boards is taking over their huddle boards, their idea boards, their strategy boards, and really kind of any board you want. And then, of course, please don't forget the fact that we have a ton of resources on our website with regard to our blog. You can see all of our prior webinars on demand, just a huge amount of resources. So this is the way to get a hold of Jake and I. I'm sorry I'm kind of rushing here at the end. It was amazing. We started almost with 20 things that we wanted to try to talk about in this time, and we kind of whittled it down. But hopefully you got a little bit of an idea of some of the biggest things that we released over the last quarter, really kind of the end of winter and beginning of spring. We love doing it, and we love working with you guys.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Keep on pushing us, and if you have any questions on anything we covered, feel free to reach out to your customer experience lead.
And don't forget to keep spreading continuous improvement.